Welcome to Silicon Valley Nonprofits, a service of KMVT Community Media. I'm Bev Lenahan, your host. Today, our guest will be Ewell Sterner, Executive Director and founder of Hunger at Home. Ewell, thank you so much for being with us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, you know, we're here in Silicon Valley, and many people think that we've already solved this problem of hunger in our area. Is that true? Tell us the facts.
Well, there is approximately 722,140, elaborate a little bit, facing food insecurity in our valley at this time. So if you break that down into 1 in 4, perhaps at the University San Jose, studies have been done that it's 1 in 3 individuals are facing food insecurity. And an interesting part of that statistic is 40% of all food globally is wasted. So you take those statistics that we just spoke of, 25% of that 40% would feed every food insecure individual on our planet.
In the world. Oh my goodness. And yet it's not happening. It's not happening. So that's a powerful statistic. It's kind of scary to me, actually, really. So Hunger at Home, you're playing a vital role in helping to close this gap. Tell our viewers what you're doing.
The Reader's Digest version, Hunger at Home is a conduit between for-profit and non-profit. We bridge the gap. We take the surplus that's available out into the community, from food to anything you'd find in a resort, in industry that was needed by our non-profit partners. So we would take and we utilize the Good Samaritan Bill Emerson Act. There is a federal law that goes through and indemnifies agencies from liability. So the food that's left over from large agencies, example, Levi's Stadium does a game. There's 700 points of sale. Even if a small 1% of those points of sale didn't go through the product, they would have over 1,800 meals that were under 40, over 40, kept in temperature, that they could then donate to the nonprofits.
I had no idea that there was that indemnification clause.
It's important. 1996, Bill Clinton passed. Since, Bev, 1996, there's been 0 litigation liability. There has been no individual that has successfully won a lawsuit in with all good conscience donating food that has been cared for to those in need. 0 litigation. So it's something that people need to be aware of, that it is protected by the government if you're handling product well.
And so that's the part that you have to help oversee to make sure that safety features in place, I'm sure.
Part of Hunger at Home, we vet any nonprofit. Some of our larger partners from Salvation Army, Martha's Kitchen, City Team, Home First, Destination Home, we go through and we ensure that they're ServSafe certified. We've come up with our food safety guidelines. We do allergen requests. We ensure that the food is handled properly. Obviously, it's transported properly and then maintained. We don't ever want anyone to become sick from the product, but we worked with Second Harvest, with the health department, advising on proper food safety guidelines. So that's very important to our mission.
And those partnerships are really built on trust, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Not only the guidelines you lay down, but certainly a high regard for trust and respect of one another.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I know you've got many, many personal stories, but the one that I'd like you to share with our viewers is about your son and really how Hunger at Home got started.
So back in 2008, I'm in the hotel industry. I move around quite often. I went from San Diego to Puerto Rico to Colorado to Arizona in a matter of years. So when in San Diego, I have 4 kids, single dad. They lost their mom. And they started to focus on things that I didn't want them focused on. The wrong set of friends, sitting at the computer so we started volunteering our time at the different nonprofits, at the food bank, at the rescue mission. My 8-year-old son looked up, I can see him as if it was you now, and said, "Dad, how can this be? We have a huge house. Can't we open? Dad, we have to do more." And I was the area director for Hilton Hotels, had 26 hotels. We went back the next day, had a meeting with all of our different executive chefs and directors of food and beverage, and Hunger at Home began.
My goodness. And what year was that?
2008.
Oh, goodness. And I bet your son just beams when he hears you tell that story.
He does, and my son is very active. In fact, he comes to each gala and will come up and do a presentation and talk about some of the statistics and the greatest needs that within our community.
and I'm sure with passion, because that's where it starts, isn't it? With a
Absolutely.
passion and a need and an understanding. So tell us a little bit more about how the logistics of all of this has got to be just amazing to make it all happen, to get delivery of everything, get it to the right location, ensuring all the safety. Tell us how that works.
Like any B2B or foundation, so safety guidelines are the core, the foundation, the fundamental, and basically, Bev, it's an algorithm between the for-profits, who has what time do they generally donate, what kind of product, and then the nonprofits, what is their greatest need? How can they facilitate? Do they have large freezers, refrigerators? And 85% of that is business to business. So I'll get a call. Hi, I did a banquet for Apple, Google, 2,000 out of 4,000 showed up. I have 2,000 pounds up. Oh my gosh. Algorithm sets in. Salvation Army can handle large capacities of protein. You pick up the phone, Salvation Army will go within their trucks, they go to designated areas. So our goal, business to business, but there's many times that there's just not availability. So that's, we get in our vehicles and get trailers and bring that to those in need. But the primary, it's important that we learn. We used to, in the beginning, go out to the encampments and do large feeding. We found that wasn't the best way to support, and we don't want to say enable, but we found that if we supporting those in need, it's a long mouthful,
yes.
But in other words, the nonprofits, that's what they do. They're set up, their operations to facilitate, to ensure they're providing case management, they're providing the full circle, not just giving a meal. So we really are the support of different nonprofits throughout the community, which makes us different.
In my experience, you've said something so important. Without the case management, it becomes a meal. And really, it's got to be more than a meal for us to address the hunger situation. There's always a lot more to it than just being hungry. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So I think you've branched out a little bit. It's not just food, is it, anymore? With your hotels involved, you've been able to broaden some of the offerings that you can give to the nonprofits.
It's important, and our board is always fishing with me, and no mission creep, and it's so hard to do because you go out and you see the need, but primarily you look at the food to need, you look at the surplus. A great example, you go into a hotel, the Fairmont is a great example because they're wonderful and they're great partners, but I use a lot of shampoo when I go into the hotels, and you use just a little bit.
For all that hair.
Well, maybe for here, and then it gets thrown away. So all of our hotel partners have bins that are by their landings, and their housekeepers go through, and now they take those partially used and amenities, soaps, they go to Showers, their Dignity on Wheels, Salvation Army, City Team, blankets. We just did about, maybe in the last 2 weeks, it was about 400 blankets and
fabulous.
pillows, cold weather shelters. We actually had so much. We filled up the Archie's Armies, we filled up Home First, we filled up different shelters where we brought it down to Paradise, to Chico, because we had such an abundance. So that, with the last part, is the awareness is always going to be what we do in advocacy, getting the individuals working throughout state and legislation, but career opportunities. Those in need, all of our hotel partners, entry culinary, housekeeping, banquets, plumbing, HVAC, Local 39, Local 19. So we take the thousands of individuals that have shown promise through City Team, through Downtown Street Team, that are looking for work, we connect the dots.
Wonderful. We're out of time, darn it.
I just got started, Deb. Let's get started in this. We want to show our book. We want to talk about.
So tell our friends how to get a hold of you so that they can be a part of this solution.
The best, easiest way to get a hold of Hunger at Home at any time is hungerathome.org. We have a website. It'll be completely brand new in about 2 weeks, but there's volunteer opportunities there. There's contact information. There's great overview of what we do. hungerathome.org.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you so much for being here today. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Welcome to Silicon Valley Nonprofits, a service of KMVT Community Media. I'm Bev Lenahan, your host. Today, our guest is Ewell Sterner, Executive Director and founder of Hunger at Home. Thanks for being with us today. Nice to have you, Ewell.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
For our viewers, remind them what hungerathome.org is doing today.
Hunger at Home primary is we connect surplus to need. We take the for-profit, the nonprofit, take from food to surplus supplies and provide those to the different nonprofits that help those that are facing food insecurity and experiencing homelessness.
You're an expert intermediary, right?
Absolutely.
A connector.
Absolutely. Connect the dots.
We like that. And hunger, for those who may not be aware, is still an issue here in Silicon Valley. What's the bottom line number? How big is it?
The last statistic was 720,000 individuals are facing food insecurity in our valley.
Food insecurity, and I think people don't often think about what kind of fear comes up when you're insecure about your next meal or the proper food to have. And I like it. It refocuses from somebody who's hungry to something that's much more important, I think. Yeah.
From schools to try to encourage a child to learn when they're hungry, or the statistic is 33% of the community going to the nonprofits are working. And they're going to the food pantries, to the food deserts. It's 33% have jobs.
My goodness. So that makes them maybe less effective than they might be otherwise.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I know this was your son's sort of brainstorm several years ago. How many years has Hunger at Home been in existence?
A total of 10 years. It started in San Diego and started 2015 in San Jose.
Oh, very good. Wonderful. And spreading. And I understand now you actually have 2 paid employees rather than all volunteers.
We absolutely do. And Hunger at Home has always been a volunteer network. And as of last year, we had our first executive director. And as of 3 months ago, I've come on as an executive director and been in the hospitality world for 35 years and decided that I was going to do something different. And as I communicate clearly, it's to have a purpose and to continuously support those in need in the community. And I think it's important to know what we're doing is making, and part of our mission is to make what has become somewhat invisible visible, and what has become somewhat acceptable unacceptable.
Yes, and that awareness makes people uncomfortable, but that's when we start to act, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, and it's not to say anybody takes a blind eye, but it's become such commonplace that unfortunately we become anesthetized and somewhat numb to the major opportunity. 7,000 individuals experiencing homelessness, sleeping in the elements with 1,200 beds available.
It's not acceptable. But I think the other thing that is going along with this is case management, and I so believe they have to go hand in hand with the food and the supplies has to be the case management. And I know that's why you found a benefit working with the other nonprofits who supply that element as well.
Absolutely, and whenever we can help to support and reduce their food costs, that same monies go to case management. So what's very unique about Hunger at Home is that we work with all of the nonprofits. We just had a symposium at City Hall. We had 18 nonprofits talking about
very good.
Best practices, resources. What do you do in this scenario? What is your greatest need? Talking amongst one another towards the same, obviously, outcome and expected goals. Good,
wonderful. Well, we just have a short time. Tell our viewers about this book and how you're using that to build awareness.
This book was created, Leah Stowe's was, and her husband Ryan helped us to create this, but the exercise was to go out to over 100 different encampments, ask the same series of questions from what did you do for a profession, how did you become homeless, what would be done if you could not, what's most important. We created this to create an awareness within the community to what's going on in our own backyard. It's labeled Our Neighbors. Soon we'll have this available, hopefully on Amazon and every retail outlet that's available, and electronic, of course. And you can find that now on our website at hungerathome.org.
Wonderful. I know people will want to support you in your effort. Thank you for all you're doing, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right.